everyone, and welcome to episode 147 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday, July the 9th, 2020, a very important date in my life, and I will tell you why in a little while. I am Carol. You can find me over on Ravelry as Knitsnpurls, and I'm coming to you from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far east of Vancouver. If this is your first time watching, hello, welcome. Thank you for checking out the podcast. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Hello again, and thank you for coming by yet again to spend part of your day with me. A huge thank you, as always, to everyone who reached out to me in one way or the other this past week. I always so enjoy hearing from you and really appreciate that you take the time to drop me a line and say hello. I was especially pleased and grateful to hear from some of my American friends who I hadn't touched base with for a little while. I know your country is going through an incredibly difficult time right now, and I've been thinking of many of you and wondering how you are. And so I was so pleased to hear from some of you and know that you are well and healthy. So just want to say my thoughts go out to all of you, and I am just sincerely hopeful that things take a turn for the better very, very soon, so that your lives can resume some sense of normalcy. We've had a pretty good week here. Before I get into what I've been working on, I will let you know that I recorded a special episode a couple of days ago. It is my 20 in 20 second quarter review. As many of you know, I've been taking part in Fiber Nymph Dyeworks 20 in 20 challenge. And so in that little special episode, I talk about what I accomplished during the second quarter and gave you a little sneak peek into what I hope to be working on in the third quarter, which we are now in. So I plan to release it at about the same time as this episode, and so you can watch for that too. Okay, well, I think that's it for sort of announcements, so let's get into it. I have a work in progress that you haven't seen for a little while, and it is my Rainy Window Socks by Helen Stewart. I am knitting them out of Hazelnut's Artisan Sock. This is a Rogue colorway. It's labeled 367. It was a naughty skein. It came to me divided into two skeins about the same size, and it's a one-of-a-kind colorway. So it's kind of blue, like purple with some blue streaks in it. So I actually finished, finally, my first Rainy Window Sock, and I was Kitcheneering, is that a word? I was grafting the toe this morning, and very appropriately the window was absolutely covered in raindrops. I woke up to rain. It's now just overcast. About 10 minutes before I sat down to record, we had a little glimpse of sunshine, but that has completely disappeared. But at least it's dry for the moment. So this is a sock, I think it was the second one released, maybe the third, from Helen Stewart's Handmade Sock Society 3. Yes, 3. It has this textured pattern that runs down the front of the sock, which is bordered by this cable on either side, 1x1 twisted rib cuff, traditional heel flap, and gusset. And so I'll just flip this around a little bit on the sock blocker so you can get a better look at that textured pattern. There you go. So yeah, I've been neglecting my these socks. I have several pairs from that collection cast on, and I've been working on other things, been kind of distracted, but I'm one thing I would like to do is concentrate on getting all of these socks done, because there's another one yet that I haven't even cast on for yet. So I was happy to finish that. And I immediately cast on the second sock and knit 2 rows of the cuff, trying very desperately to avoid second sock syndrome. So look forward to knitting more on those. What I might do is pick up my, what are they called? The luminary socks. I might pick up those next, because I've just gone past the gusset on the first sock. It would be nice to finish that sock, and then I will have the first sock done in each of the 3 patterns I have on the go from that collection. And that would make me feel a sense of accomplishment. All of a sudden I just have socks everywhere. Speaking of, these are the socks I cast on Father's Day. I gave 3 skeins of yarn to my husband Cameron for Father's Day, 3 skeins of Cascade Heritage Wave, and I told him to pick one and I would cast it on that day. So he chose this gray, which is called Graphite. It's color 515. I think I'd finished one sock last week, but I'm not positive. In any case, I have finished one of the socks, and then I've got quite a bit done on the second one too. I have made it past the gusset and partway down the foot. So this yarn is sort of like color blocks. It's like a what's the word I'm looking for when you have like a light and a dark, like a marled look. It has a marled look, and the socks don't match because the yarn does not repeat itself. Now, having said that, they actually are fairly similar. They both start with kind of this darkish part, work their way down into the kind of this tweedy part, and then go into sort of a solid part, but they just don't match up as far as where that's located. And that's fine. They never will match, but it's kind of nice to see they sort of have some resemblance to each other. The changes on this yarn are very subtle. I actually noticed it more when I was looking at it on camera than what I see in real life. Sometimes the camera picks that up better. So yeah, well on my way to finishing this pair. And I have 2 more skeins of yarn, and in that Heritage Wave in 2 other colorways, and it's my intention to knit the other 2 up sometime by, I guess I would say by the end of this year. But I will not be casting on another pair right away because it's not the most exciting thing to knit. Okay, so my next 2 projects are mystery knit-alongs. Yes, 2. Now, if you were watching last week, you know that I am taking part in Helen Stewart's Stillness Shawl Mystery Knit-along. So I will talk about that one first. And the second is Very Busy Monkey, or Sock Knitters Anonymous Mystery Sock. So if you don't want to be spoiled by those, maybe you're knitting on both of them too, come back in 5 minutes or so and I'll have put it all away. But in case you're interested in seeing them, I'm going to talk about them now. So consider yourself warned. So I have completed Clue 2 of the Stillness shawl. I forgot to bring in the photo that this is. I chose my yarn based on a still life photograph that I have hanging up in my bathroom. I've showed it in the past, and there are pictures of it on my project page, so you can take a look there. So I am using Sweet Georgia yarns. The orange is called Persimmon, and it is in the Cash Luxe Fine, so that's a merino cashmere nylon blend. And then the other two colors are, the green is pistachio, and then the speckled one is rainbow sprinkles. So I did modify the shawl a little bit by knitting the pistachio in garter stitch instead of stocking stitch as the pattern indicates. And then I inadvertently did another design modification in that I missed the part of the pattern that told me, I think it's in this stripe, to do a yarn over knit two together on the right side so that we would have a line of eyelets. I've been considering whether or not to take it back and redo it, and I've pretty well decided that I am going to take back a few rows. So clue 1 was from here all the way down to the first striped section, and then clue 2 was this lace here, and then some more stripes. And clue 3 came out this morning, and it is being knit in this color here, and it's another textured section. So yeah, so I guess I have a little bit of tinking and reknitting to do before I can do clue 3. But yeah, I'm happy with how it's coming along. I'm glad that I know I mentioned last week that I had played with the color placement in clue 1, and I'm really pleased with the order that I settled on. I like the way this is coming together, and that the dominant color is this variegated skein. I feel like that's the one that you see the most, and then you have these pops of the orange and then the green. It's just kind of a nice blend there. So yeah, happy with how that's coming along. Looking forward to doing clue number 3. So the last thing I really needed to do was cast on another sock. And the last thing I really needed to do was another mystery knit along, but I couldn't help myself. The other night I was on Ravelry and going through the pattern highlights, and I came across this one called Destination Unknown by Very Busy Monkey, and discovered that it is a mystery sock that is being designed for Sock Knitters Anonymous, and it's inspired by Destination Unknown by Agatha Christie. So if you have watched this podcast for any length of time, you will know that for the last 3.5 years, I've been reading my way through my Agatha Christie collection in order. So I did read this book several months ago. So when I saw it was a mystery sock, and I really what I saw was an Agatha Christie inspired sock, and I really like Very Busy Monkey patterns. I have knit a number of them in the past, and I've participated in, she has knit alongs she does about 6 a year, and I actually had won this Very Busy Monkey project bag in one of them. So I just couldn't resist. So I thought it would be kind of fun to maybe see if I had a skein of yarn that matched the cover of the book. And went stash diving, and I came up with this one, which was pretty close. Has the pink and the orange and the blue, among other colors. Even this little bit of brown and stuff. So this is another Sweet Georgia yarn. This is Tough Love Sock. And this is the Strawberry Tea colorway. And so yeah, I cast on. We have, I can't talk. Clue 1 was this much. So it didn't take too long to knit that up. And then clue 2 came out yesterday, and I've knit clue 2 up on one sock. I'm doing them 2 at a time concurrently, separate needles. So I did finish up clue 2. Looks like that. Years and years ago, I think it was back pretty close to when I first started on Ravelry, I was just starting to knit socks, and I used to be a member of Sock Knitters Anonymous, of the Sock Knitters Anonymous group on Ravelry, and they would have challenges all the time, and I really expanded my sock knitting ability by participating in those regularly and trying new techniques and new designers. So it's kind of fun to go back to that group. I realized I must have left it at some point because I had to rejoin. But I haven't done like a mystery sock in that group for years. So it's kind of fun to go back and actually see some of the same people on there that were there way back when I was participating before. So it's kind of a little bit of nostalgia in that way. I am also taking part in the knit along in Very Busy Monkeys Ravelry group, because this is one of the socks that are featured in it. So, you know, 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm not in it for the prizes. I'm just in it just because I enjoy those kinds of knit alongs. I also find that doing mystery knit-alongs, I'm very motivated to finish one clue before the next one comes out. And it's nice how you can kind of spread out your work on a project over a period of weeks. And, you know, because once you're sort of finished step 1 or step 2 or step 3, you can't go any further until it's released. So it's just a nice way to knit something in little bites instead of trying to do it all at once. I have been working on continuing to work on my cross stitch project, Oh Christmas Tree by Lavender and Lace. And I debated whether to show it to you or not, but last time I showed it to you, I think I had done the gold along this side, and I have completed the rest of the gold framing in that area. And then what I've done, this is like the sort of the next square of the chart. I have it all folded up. So I basically have completed from here up, that's sort of the first little more than a third, or not, no, little more than a quarter of the chart. And so this is the next sort of large quarter. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, I have filled in all of this dark brown here, and I'm just doing this lightest green, and then I'll just gradually fill in the tree here before I move on to the next area down here. So I'm kind of doing it in chunks. So I do not anticipate showing this to you again for a little while, because I think it's going to take me a while to do the Christmas tree here. And as I've said before, I know it's not that thrilling to just see little bits and pieces done every week, but I sort of felt like I was in a good next step to show you my progress. And yeah, you won't see it for a while, unless I'm like super accomplished, which I do not anticipate in the coming week. I guess that brings us to what's been going on around here this past week. As I mentioned, it is not great weather today, but we did have several days of nice weather in a row, and they actually landed on the weekend. And so Cameron and I took advantage of that and did some yard work on Saturday and Sunday. All the rain, as I've mentioned before, our last few months have been 2 or 3 rainy or cloudy days, followed by 1 or 2 nice days, followed by rain and cloud. And so it's never gotten really hot here. And so it's been good for the garden in a sense because the garden's gotten a lot of water, but it's also been really good for the weeds. And they had completely taken over. So we spent quite a bit of time this weekend weeding. And then Monday I was in the garden in the front yard here and trimmed a bunch of shrubs and kind of tidied up all the hanging baskets and the other patio planters that I had. Did some pruning on all the petunias. They're getting a kind of leggy and I want them to bush out more. I've been waging a battle with snails this year. Again, I think it's because we've had a lot of rain. We've also had a lot of snails, and they have particularly loved my red petunias that I planted in. I have 3 ceramic planters kind of placed in among my garden in the front, and I just change them out every year with different flowers, just keep things interesting. And I've never seen this happen before, but I planted at the beginning of the year some red trailing petunias, some sort of mini yellow petunias. I know there's a name for those things, but I can't remember what it is. They look like mini petunias and they trail, and dark blue lobelia. And the snails ate almost every bit of the red petunias and the yellow ones. They literally ate everything off and left the stems. So I replaced some of these red petunias a few weeks ago, and immediately they got eaten again. I've never seen them eaten literally down to just the stems before. Anyway, I recently I kind of was replacing them in bits and pieces because they didn't all disappear at once. So I had replaced the most recent one with a non-trailing red petunia, and it survived. And so I went back to the store and I bought the last of what they had. I think there were 4 or 5 plants left, and have replanted those, and I added some white geraniums this time. And I figured this is it, 3rd time, I'm not doing it again. So I'm really hoping that for some reason they don't like the upright petunias and they only like the trailing petunias, so that maybe they'll survive and actually, be more than just blue lobelia, because apparently they don't like that. It has survived just fine. I had bought, there the rain's starting again. I had also planted some dark purple trailing petunias in the back garden in one area. And while those haven't been completely eaten, they've certainly been nibbled at, and they are nowhere near as showy at this time of the year as they were last year, because I had planted red ones, the same type but only red, in the same area last year, and they just exploded. They were beautiful. These are also looking a little sad, so we'll see. You can only do so much. On the other hand, I have some perennials that came up for the second time this year, or I guess they came up for the first time. They were planted for the first time last year, and they came back really nicely, and they've been doing well. And I've seen the hummingbird quite often going from plant to plant to plant. It's my hummingbird butterfly bee garden. So I chose plants that would especially be attractive to those creatures, and it's so gratifying to look out and see them actually in the garden and, enjoying what was planted for them. Makes my heart kind of sing. It is supposed to be pretty decent on the weekend. I'm hoping the weather holds, because if so, our son-in-law is going to pick up a load or 2 of bark mulch for us, and then we'll refresh that on the gardens. We haven't done that for a couple of years. It's pretty well all worked its way into the soil now. So that will just make them look even fresher and much better. So it's nice to at least look out now and not go, oh, I really need to weed that thing. Now everything right now looks very nice and tidy, and hopefully we can keep it that way. I tend to get lazy as the season goes on, I confess. Next weekend we are planning, and if all goes well, we are going to take our 3 grandchildren up to the cabin for the weekend. We'll make a long weekend out of it, whether we take off Friday or Monday. I'm not sure yet. That will be the first time we've kind of brought them into our bubble. We have continued to practice social distancing with our kids and grandkids, just because so many of the adults work outside the home and work with the public. So knowing that the numbers have stayed well under control, we feel like we're ready to take that next step, open our circle a little bit more, and especially knowing that from all the evidence so far, young people seem to both avoid getting the virus, are not as likely to transmit it, and most do not have as tough a time as adults. So yeah, we're going to take that step and spend the weekend together. Because if you drive 3 hours in a car together, then you know you're kind of in it for the long haul. So looking forward to being able to spend more time with them and closer time. I've really missed being able to just sit with them and put my arm around them, give them a hug, because we've hugged a few times, usually with the mask on, and it's brief, and then we're apart again. So I'm looking forward to that more physical connection. That is almost everything for this week, but before I say goodbye, I want to tell you about something good. So as I alluded to earlier, July 9th is a significant date in my life. Exactly 38 years ago today, my husband and I met at my sister's wedding. So he was friends with 2 of my sisters at the time, and even though I'd heard them talk about him and had even unknowingly spoken to him on the phone the day before the wedding, we had never met each other, and we hit it off right away, and then exactly a year later, we got engaged. And then just over a year after that, we got married. Sadly, by that time, my sister and her husband were no longer together, but if they hadn't gotten married, maybe we wouldn't have gotten married. So yeah, so today's our 37th and 38th anniversaries of sorts. We have no big plans. We're eating leftovers for dinner, but I'm sure we'll have a glass of wine and drink to us. Have a toast. All right, that is it for this week. So I am planning to record again next week before we head away for the weekend, so watch for that. As I mentioned earlier, I am putting up a special episode around the same time this one launches, so if you're interested, watch for that too. Thank you, as always, for watching. I hope you all stay well in the week ahead. Take care, enjoy your crafting, and I will speak to you again very soon. Bye for now.